Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Leslie Allen, and I'm the owner of the Center for Holistic Healing, where I practice functional medicine as well as physical therapy. I am thrilled to get to present this webinar, The Gut, the Skin, and You. It's something that I am very passionate about for many reasons. First and foremost, I have a skin condition. It was my first symptom of my autoimmunity. It was 100% a reflection of my gut health. And honestly, I have a love-hate relationship with my diagnosis of vitiligo. Vitiligo is where you develop white patches of depigmented skin, and it is an autoimmune condition. So the thing that I love most about it is that I immediately ran to the doctor, as most of us do when we do have a skin condition, because it's something that is going to impact our outer appearance, our self-esteem, and you know, it's something that everyone can see. We can't ignore it. So the things that I dislike the most about it is exactly what I just said. It's on the outside of our skin. Everyone can see it. It's embarrassing. It took me quite some time to become comfortable in my own skin again once I was diagnosed with that condition. So it's very different from conditions such as Hashimoto's, where you can ignore the symptoms for quite some time, or you can hide those symptoms from others. So it's a very, having a skin condition is something that we often times will react much quicker to seek treatment. So, and then most of you know my passion with gut health. It was the root to my particular issue as well as many of my clients. But when it's combined with skin health, most people don't make the link between the two. So the skin is typically a direct reflection of our gut. When we have skin issues, we usually will do absolutely anything to clear that issue. And unfortunately, due to the lack of regulation in the US over the personal care industry, these products that we often choose first can sometimes cause greater issues to our health. So we're going to dive into that issue a little bit later in order to be able to offer solutions that I chose when I was diagnosed with vitiligo to make sure that I was choosing the best products for my health. If you have any questions during the webinar, if you would, there is a Q&A section. You can type your question in there. I'm going to try to stop about every 15 minutes in order to check those questions in the Q&A. Try not to use the chat. I'm not going to look there. So if we can just keep the questions all in one area, that would be helpful. All right, so let's get started. So of course, most of us know that our skin is actually one of our largest organs. So on average, a person's skin could cover approximately 2 square meters and accounts for approximately 15% of our body weight, making it one of the largest organs. Unlike other organs, the skin covers the outside of the body, acting as a protective barrier to protect our internal organs from the outside harm. The scientific term for this organ is epidermis, which is the outermost layer of the skin that we can see and touch. The skin has multiple layers with various functions, so let's take a deeper look. So the skin has 3 layers. This is the epidermis, the outermost layer, the dermis, which is the layer just next to that, and the hypodermis, or the subcutaneous tissue, which is the deepest. The epidermis is the outermost layer, and it provides a protective barrier. It's water resistant, and it lacks blood vessels, but just because of that doesn't mean that it can't absorb chemicals. So we know this through nicotine patches, pain patches, creams that the dermatologist will prescribe. These are all things that are absorbed through this protective barrier. So It does protect us, but yet at the same rate, we can still absorb things through it. The dermis is located just below the epidermis, and it contains connective tissue, hair follicles. This is where the sweat glands live. This is the layer that cushions the body from stress and strain. And our deepest layer is the hypodermis. It is the subcutaneous tissue and connective tissue. Technically, it's not part of the skin. It's actually what attaches our skin to the underlying muscles and bones. It does help to, so this layer does help to supply the skin with blood vessels and nerves. So what the skin does for us, it has many important functions. Again, as I mentioned, it's a protective layer. It protects us against pathogens. It creates a barrier between the internal and the external world. There are many nerve endings located in the skin that react to temperature, touch, pressure, vibration, any type of tissue injury. Temperature regulation is an important function, so it contains a large blood supply to either warm or cool the body and maintains an adequate temperature. Sweat glands, for example, are located in the skin as a means of cooling the body and excreting toxins. The skin also has a storage center of fat and water, which provide a unique environment for the synthesis of vitamin D. The water-resistant barrier of the skin allows nutrients to remain in the body to eventually be absorbed by the organs. But just because it's water-resistant, again, chemicals can still penetrate that layer. The skin houses three main ecological areas: moist, dry, and sebaceous, where a rich environment of microbes thrive. Around 1,000 species of bacteria have been identified just on our skin. So this has been a major area of interest for the National Institute of Health, which launched the Human Microbiome Project to identify and characterize the microorganisms which are found in association in bone health and diseased humans. Skin flora is typically non-pathogenic, meaning non-harmful bacteria. The rich diversity of the skin flora prevent pathogenic organisms from colonizing on the skin surface. So the skin flora is under examination for additional benefits, such as those found in the gut flora, which we're going to dive into in just a few minutes. So let me just double check to make sure that there are no questions so far. And again, if you have any questions, if you're just joining in and you have any questions along throughout the webinar, go ahead and type those in the Q&A. All right, so we have 4 different skin types. We have normal skin, oily skin, dry skin, and combination. The category normal usually refers to a well-balanced skin, referring to the balance of sebum, or the oil that the skin produces. Achieving normal skin is the goal for most products. Dry skin lacks sebum needed to retain moisture. Sebum also acts as a protective shield against external influences. Problems related to dry skin are a common complaint and account for 40% of the visits to the dermatologist. Dry skin is more sensitive to irritation, redness, and a risk of infection. So the hands, feet, elbows, knees, these are particularly prone to conditions of dry skin, such as roughness, calluses, scaling, frequent itchiness, chapping, which is going to have a tendency to form cracks in the skin. Oily skin, on the other hand, is just the opposite. So it's going to be the overproduction of sebum from the skin cells. And it's going to leave the skin feeling greasy, looking shiny. This can be due to genetics, environment, stress, hormones. Many different things play into the production of oil on our skin. So combination skin, it consists of both dry and oily skin. The oily areas are typically going to be the T-zone, so across the forehead and then down the bridge of the nose and onto the chin. The other areas, such as the cheeks, are usually drier. Skin conditions can vary and can be influenced by both internal and external factors. So now let's dive into the gastrointestinal tract. So I'll refer to it throughout the rest of the webinar as the GI tract. And it is made up of everything from our mouth all the way down to the anus. So the body as a whole houses a variety of bacterial ecosystems. The gut, known as the small and the large intestines, has its own microbiome of bacteria not found anywhere else within the body. There are over 400 bacterial species, mainly found in the lower bowel, the large intestines. The stomach is more acidic, so it houses sparse amounts of bacteria. The gut is responsible for absorbing nutrients, housing both helpful and harmful bacteria, and excreting waste. The primary function is to absorb the nutrients from the food so that our body can function optimally. So improving gut function and health has been specifically shown to improve skin health, immune function, mood, and energy levels. Because the skin and the gut both share a number of similarities, we know this as the gut-skin axis. Just like we have the gut-brain axis as well, these are both very similar. So both host individual microbiomes. They play key roles as defenders against pathogens invading from the outside environment. The gut. The health of your skin is dependent on what is happening in the gut. We have numerous studies now that do in fact show this, and that they show that treating gut issues also treats skin issues. So there are many strains of bacteria living in the gut, which can be divided into two categories. The good bacteria, known as the probiotic, and then the bad bacteria. These can be a host of different bacteria, but the idea is that they keep one another in check. So we don't want the bad bacteria to take over, and so it's equally important to have both of those, that diversity in the microbiome. So these bacteria are responsible for proper digestion of food, synthesis of vitamins that your body needs. But when the bad guys take over, this can result in a number of underlying gut conditions. One of the many functions of the gut is to create a barrier, keeping things out. It's in a healthy gut, nutrients can enter, but toxins and other harmful elements cannot. So let's take a look at some gut conditions related to skin issues. Some of the most common gut imbalances include small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. This occurs when the when the bacteria of the large intestines actually migrate into the small intestines where they do not belong. This is something that I actually dealt with. It's one of my major causes of my autoimmunity. So the next gut imbalance is gut dysbiosis. This is what I was speaking of. So when the good bacteria no longer are able to keep the bad bacteria in check, the bad bacteria will take over. This can also be yeast, parasites, a variety of different things as well, creating that gut dysbiosis. Hypochlorhydria, this is low stomach acid, and this is a condition that is commonly seen in people with skin issues such as chronic facial redness or rosacea. We're going to get into that in a little more detail. And as I just mentioned, parasites, yeast infections, they can also be a source of continued inflammation in the gut-skin axis as well. With a lot of my clients, especially the younger kids suffering from eczema issues, when I do what is called a CSAP, a comprehensive stool analysis on them, I often find yeast overgrowth in their gut. That often is also associated with an increase in food sensitivities. So each of these conditions can lead to what's called leaky gut. And leaky gut is a consequence of various bacterial imbalances in the gut, where the bacteria and the inflammatory food cause an attack on the gut wall, disrupting the bacterial protection. Substances can then leak into past that barrier. They leak into the bloodstream. So these substances can be anything from bacteria, fungi, viruses, food particles that have not been digested completely. Toxins from bacterial metabolism can then flow in. Consequences of this can be very severe. So this is another issue that I had. Oftentimes when you have SIBO of the small intestines, you have leaky gut of the large intestines. Chronic inflammation can occur, placing additional stress on the skin. Food allergies can develop as the immune system starts to identify food particles as invaders, because rather than those food particles getting digested and then the nutrients getting absorbed, the food particles can then seep into the blood. Leaky gut is now known to be a major contributor to the onset of autoimmunity. Nutrient deficiencies are also a result of incomplete digestion. So, do we have any questions over the gut? Looks like we're good. So we're going to continue to weave in what we will do to help repair the gut as we begin to look at some skin issues. Conditions affecting the skin. So due to extensive research on the gut-skin axis, we now know that there are conditions that are either caused or worsened by poor gut health, especially when combined with hormone imbalance, stress, maybe methylation issues. Some skin conditions specifically are caused by poor gut health, and these include acne, facial redness, eczema, psoriasis, dry skin, rosacea, dermatitis. These are common conditions many individuals experience. Skin conditions are typically symptoms of something else that's going on within the body. So when we have these conditions, we often panic, especially when it's on our face or our hands or where people can see them. We rush to the dermatologist, just as I did when I had my first symptom of vitiligo. The dermatologist will typically prescribe creams and lotions such as benzoyl peroxide, retinoid acid, salicylic acid, glycolic acid pills, topical antibiotics, all of which will help the symptoms, but they're full of chemicals that are also going to disrupt our health in other ways. For instance, my story with vitiligo, I rushed to the dermatologist. The dermatologist confirmed that it was vitiligo, and she offered a cream that I would apply to my patches of skin, to the areas of my skin. I don't know if you can see, I have several that and around my thyroid that have broken out. And the cream would help to calm the inflammation and reduce the immune attack on the melanocytes of my skin. However, the dermatologist had to warn me that the cream had a black box warning, which is a label that is put on pharmaceuticals when they have a significant side effect. And it just so happened that the significant side effect that this particular cream had was that it was a known carcinogen. So to me, that was really my aha moment of when I recognized, wow, if the dermatologist can prescribe me a cream that could give me cancer, what else am I putting on my body that could also be causing harm? Sometimes with oral antibiotics, which can cause long-term gut complications, immune problems, yeast overgrowth, are prescribed, typically for cystic acne or other issues like that. Or even worse, Accutane. This can cause liver damage, increased risk of depression and suicide. Or you can even be offered, many teenage girls are offered oral contraceptives to help with acne problems or breakouts. which can cause major hormone disruption that sometimes haunt women all the way into their childbearing years. So when in the end, what is really needed is to heal the leaky gut, correct food sensitivities, any methylation issues, nutritional deficiencies, remove the toxins from our environment that we're exposed to each day, reduce inflammation, rebalance our stress hormones. So acne is one of the most common skin conditions. It affects over 85% of the people at some point in their life. So this is, the majority of us have suffered from acne at one point in our life. While it was once believed, so back in the day, we were told, you can't eat greasy French fries because that led to acne. But I believe that the piece of this that was missing is not necessarily the food itself, but how the food was then impacting our gut health. So for instance, it only takes 2 weeks of eating fast food to completely wipe the gut microbiome of the good bacteria. So then you have this bad bacteria or this dysbiotic gut. So it's not necessarily the food, but it's the action of the food that the food has on the gut that then influences our skin. There has been a link between eating a low glycemic index diet with male boys, and they had a significant decrease in severe acne symptoms per a study done by the American Academy of Dermatology. Dairy is another food that's top on the list of food sensitivities. So many people, they're either sensitive to the lactose within the milk or the casein. And so due to that food sensitivity, it creates irritation or inflammation within the gut that then can be reflected as inflammation within the skin. Another study examined a group of acne sufferers and found SIBO in over half of the group. So the SIBO patients were then divided into 2 groups. One was treated with intestinal microflora correcting agents, probiotics, and the other was without. The treated group recovered from acne twice as fast. So other studies show that SIBO is 10 times more prevalent in rosacea acne sufferers than healthy controls. So let's talk about Accutane. I talked about it briefly on the last slide, but let's really dive into it because oftentimes it is overprescribed and it is a very, I'm just going to say it, it's a very dangerous medication to our health. So Roche was a company that owned Accutane, the pharmaceutical company that owned Accutane. They lost 9 out of 13 lawsuits in 2007. And were ordered to pay more than $25 million in damages in 2010, plus another $18 million in 2012 to Accutane users who developed inflammatory bowel disease as a result of this drug. So this drug was directly influencing our gut health. Due to the generic competition and the exorbitant cost of defending personal injury lawsuits, Roche stopped selling the drug in June of 2009. However, the generic form of Accutane is still around and no less deadly and remains available on the marketplace. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration stated, all patients treated with this generic form of Accutane should be observed closely for symptoms of depression, suicidal thoughts, such as sad mood, irritability, acting on dangerous impulses, anger, loss of pleasure or interest in social or sports activities, sleeping too much or too little, changes in their weight, appetite, work performance, trouble concentrating, mood disturbances, psychosis, or aggression. Patients taking it may experience side effects such as headache, blurred vision, dizziness, nausea, vomiting, seizures, strokes, diarrhea, muscle weakness. Additionally, serious mental health problems such as depression and suicide have been reported with its use. So it's also a Category X drug with pregnant women. So it can cause serious developmental defects for the developing fetus. So much so that 2 forms of birth control are required for anyone taking this drug. This is definitely should not be the solution. You should try everything possible before turning to this medication. So digestive enzymes are necessary for the breakdown of food. A lack of digestive enzymes have been linked to poor absorption of fat and protein, which are both essential for healthy skin. When fat and proteins aren't broken down properly and absorbed, the skin can become dry, resulting in conditions such as eczema and psoriasis. Digestive enzymes are mostly produced in the pancreas and the endocrine glands and secreted at various points along the intestinal tract. There are a total of 22 different digestive enzymes. They're all responsible for digesting different types of compounds. So when we're looking at skin health, we must first make sure that the food that we are eating is capable of nourishing our body and our skin by being broken down into a digestible form. We can improve these digestive enzymes by eating a variety of raw foods, including raw cultured dairy, raw honey, soaking or sprouting nuts, seeds, grains, and legumes. Correcting magnesium deficiencies will help with our digestive enzymes, but sometimes it is necessary, especially in the beginning when you are starting to correct your gut health, to actually supplement with digestive enzymes. Let food be thy medicine and medicine thy food. That was a statement by Hippocrates that still holds true today. So there are many healing foods that can help to improve both your gut and your skin. Bone broth, it's going to contain collagen, making it great for healthy skin and gut. Fermented vegetables such as sauerkraut and kimchi will help to boost the microbiome with beneficial probiotics. Swedish bitters has been found to help with the stomach, balancing low stomach acid production. So let's just talk about the low stomach acid for a second. 9 times out of 10, people with acid reflux or GERD actually have low stomach acid, not high. And so they will take things called proton pump inhibitors, this is your Nexiums and different things like that, that are going to continue to lower that stomach acid level. So they're actually doing things that are going to counteract what they need to be doing. So it's going to lower the stomach acid rather than bringing it up. So a good thing to do, a better option would be betaine hydrochloride. This is a supplement. It can be purchased pretty much from anywhere. There is a very simple stomach acid protocol that you can do. If anyone is interested in that, I'm more than happy to email that out. Just shoot me an email and I can send that to you. But essentially what you do is you take the supplement that is going to create acid within the stomach. You're going to take 1 pill after a heavy protein meal, typically your dinner. If you have no symptoms of burning in the stomach or belching or anything like that, then you'll take 2 the next day. You'll build up to where you take 4. Now, and then eventually you'll stick with 4 until you start to have those symptoms. That would mean that you've actually increased your stomach acid to a more appropriate level, and then you would back your way back down. However, if you take 1 and you already feel the symptoms, then that means that you are the 1 person out of 10 that actually does have high stomach acid levels. So eating foods that are rich in polyphenols, which are plant compounds that are not fully digested, so they make their way to the colon, and it gives the bacteria, both the bifidobacteria and the lactobacillus, something to eat. So these things with high levels of polyphenols are cocoa, skins, green tea, almonds, onions, blueberries, and broccoli. Prebiotic foods, again, giving something for the good bacteria to then fuel and grow and be able to remain in the gut. Consist of legumes, oats, always gluten-free. Gluten-free has been linked to leaky gut, so you always want to minimize your exposure to gluten. Bananas, berries, asparagus, you can read those. Fermented foods as well. These are going to help to provide good bacteria to the gut. So there was a study that looked at individuals consuming plain natural yogurt regularly, found that they had fewer enterobacteria, a bacteria that's often associated with inflammation and a number of chronic diseases. So foods to avoid, we want to avoid refined grains, products such as wheat flour, white rice, enriched breads, other inflammatory foods such as gluten, dairy, corn, soy, caffeine, alcohol, sugar is not on that list, and it should be. So the best correlation that we have between diet and skin issues, particularly acne, was a high sugar diet. They have been shown to impact gut bacteria negatively, allowing the overgrowth of harmful species. So a study of 23 Australian men, ages 15 to 25, followed a strict low glycemic index diet, and it provided the strongest evidence available of the association between glycemic load and acne. Specifically, this group of males experienced significant improvement in acne severity by adhering to the low glycemic load diet. There have been studies that have looked at artificial sweeteners, and that negatively impacts our gut microbiome as well. So supplements, some of the best supplements to help with that gut-skin axis are L-glutamine. This is an essential amino acid. It's known to repair the gut lining and an intestinal lining as well. That hydrochloric acid is very important for the low stomach acid, as we mentioned, making sure that we're able to properly digest food at an appropriate level. Probiotics are important, and turmeric, or also known as curcumin, is an anti-inflammatory. It's going to reduce any amount of inflammation that we may have in our gut. Really, foods are the best way at improving gut flora. However, it doesn't hurt to add a supplement, especially when you're trying to correct that imbalance in the beginning. It's important, though, when choosing supplements, that you choose a trusted company, preferably a company that offers professional grade supplements. The company that I work with is called Zymogen. So if you're interested in more information and access to these supplements, just send me an email through my website, and I will help you get started with the right supplements for you. So let me double check that we don't have any questions before we move on to skincare. Is everybody doing okay? I know that this can kind of get a little lengthy as we start to go through all of these different things. All right, so next up, skincare. This is usually the first place that people go or turn to when we do have a skin issue that pops up, rather than treating the true source of the problem. So even when seeing a dermatologist, my dermatologist mentioned nothing about diet, autoimmunity, and she went straight for a cream that would potentially give me cancer. So this is why it's so important to know exactly what you are putting on your skin and how it's going to impact your health. According to a recent Skin Store customer survey, the average consumer spends $8 a day on skincare. And we often apply up to 16 different products before leaving our house. This sounds crazy, right? But if you break it up and you look at shampoo, conditioner, any type of hair spray or hair product, your body wash, your body lotion, your mascara, your foundation, your blushes, your lipsticks, your deodorant, your toothpaste. It can really add up quickly. So when I was diagnosed with my skin condition, I was currently already eating all organic. I was exercising an average amount, as much as I had time for. The one thing that I hadn't cleaned up yet was my skincare products. So I was absolutely mortified when I found out about the lack of regulation in the US. Most people aren't aware that there hasn't been a major bill passed in the US government for the cosmetic and personal care industry since 1938. 1.5 pages of legislation govern a $62 billion beauty industry. And even worse, the US government bans only 30 chemicals. The European Union, they ban 1,400, Canada bans 600. So we are so behind. And this means that when we're applying over 16 products on average before we head out the door, chocked full of unknown chemicals that are impacting our hormones, our gut, our health, and increasing our risk to cancer. So even worse, when you see the word fragrance, there can be up to 800 chemicals behind this word hidden that they do not have to disclose on a label and can list that as a trade secret in the US. So as a consumer, we think that we're doing our skin a favor by applying these creams, even some that are prescribed by dermatologists, when in fact we could be doing more harm than good. I was just shocked when I found that out. And this is the primary reason that I joined arms with Beautycounter. They are a company that is working very hard at the legislative level for stricter regulation in the US government. So that way we don't have to worry about every single cream or chemical that we're putting on our body. It becomes daunting when you do start to grow that awareness, because it can take some time to start to learn all of those words, and each word may have 5 different words to describe it. So it can be really tricky. But I knew that, one, I was going to need to be able to inform my clients and my patients of the potential harm that these chemicals could cause on their detoxification system, on the liver in particular, on our hormone disruption. This is one of the biggest causes really for my vitiligo. So my vitiligo, when I took a functional medicine approach, I found that I had SIBO, I had leaky gut. I combined this with, it was in the summertime, and I was using a sunscreen that had oxybenzone, because I didn't know any better, to be honest. When oxybenzone is combined with chlorine from a pool, which many of us swim in the summertime, then that creates oxidative stress to the lipid membrane of the melanocyte. Given my genetics, with oxidative stress, I have some inefficient genes that are able to neutralize those free radicals. So it was just a perfect storm for the melanocytes. At the time that I was diagnosed with vitiligo, I was also diagnosed with hormone disruption. And again, as I mentioned, I was already eating a clean diet, and so a lot of this did have to do with my gut health, but it also had to do greatly with the chemicals that I was putting on my body. So aside from our advocacy work at Beautycounter, they do have one of the most rigorous ingredient screening processes of any company on the market. They ban 1,500 chemicals that are known or potentially harmful to our health. They promise to never use them. This is very important, especially when considering the increased use of skin products and trying different kinds of products to help heal symptoms of skin issues. Most of the products on the market have hormone disruptors, allergens, fragrance in them. What's even scarier is when we're talking about the teenage population with acne. They turn to more products to clear their acne, but also more cosmetics to cover and conceal the acne, the pimples or the blemishes that they have, or maybe even the scars that they have. So it's important that they are using safer products. UC Berkeley, they did a study to see how chemical levels in teenage girls' blood was impacted when they switched to safer choices, even just after a few days. What they found was a very significant decrease, 20 to 40% decrease of the chemicals in the blood when they were using the products that had more chemicals versus the safer products. They saw a 20 to 40% decrease. So they removed, the chemicals that they removed specifically were phthalates, parabens, triclosan, oxybenzone. So these chemicals are found everywhere. They are in our cosmetics, our fragrance, our hair products, our soaps, our sunscreens, and have been shown in animal studies to interfere with the body's endocrine system. Teenage girls or teenagers in general, not just girls, but are particularly vulnerable because of their rapid development of their reproductive system. So it's very important to screen the products that we are currently using, ditch anything with the word fragrance, parabens, phthalates, oxybenzone. A great tool to use when purchasing personal care products or even cleaning products is go to the website ewg.com, and you can type in your product and it will give you a safety rating. I try to keep all of my products at 2 or below. They also have a healthy living app that you can get on your phone, and that way you can scan barcodes when you are shopping for products at the grocery store, your health food store, wherever you may be shopping. So some action steps for clearing up acne. We'll start with this one since it does impact 85% of us. First, you're going to want to do a 23-day elimination diet. So eliminating the heavy hitters, gluten, dairy, sugar, high glycemic foods, eating whole fruits, vegetables, clean organic meats. You're going to want to heal the gut. So this may take the supplements that we talked about, drinking chicken stock on a daily basis, removing the toxins. If you're stressed, you've got to manage the stress, because you can't heal the gut with high levels of stress because of that gut-brain axis as well. So try not to turn to antibiotics. I know you're going to want to, especially if you're have a teenager that is dealing with cystic acne, their self-esteem is being influenced. This is going to wipe all good bacteria, all bad bacteria. And we know through research, you can't get that diversity back unless you're resupplying it back. So it's very important. It really only takes one round of antibiotics to wipe it all, and then you're going to have other issues that will come into play. Beautycounter does have a facial line specifically for acne and oily skin called Counter Control. After 4 weeks of use, 100% of the participants in the study stated that their skin felt healthier, their skin clarity had improved, and 95% said that their skin was less red. For rosacea. So as I mentioned, hypochlorhydria or low stomach acid is a huge concern with rosacea patients. So you're going to want to do that stomach acid protocol test to see if your stomach acid is low or if it is high. You're going to want to get rid of SIBO, and this may actually take a functional medicine doctor in order to test you for it. You're going to heal your leaky gut, and then use safer products in order to provide the skin with the appropriate oil balance and nutrients needed. So with Beautycounter, they recommend using the Nourishing line, which is predominantly a coconut and aloe base. And then weaving in to that 2 times a week a charcoal facial cleansing bar. So charcoal is magnetic. It's going to draw any impurities out of the skin, but it's also going to help to calm the skin as well. You will then want to use what's called a rosewater spray, and this is going to be a toner. It's going to help to influence the pH of the skin and prepare the skin to absorb the moisturizer that you put on. They recommend balancing oil, so to help balance the good bacteria, the amount of oil that's on the skin, that's being produced by the skin, so that's sebum. And then lastly is the cleansing balm. And this, if you have any skin condition, really it's typically my first recommendation. If you can only buy one product, it's usually my recommendation will most likely be the cleansing balm for most. It is a multitasker. It's going to be a cleanser, a makeup remover, but then most importantly for rosacea, they'll be able to wear this as a hydrating mask. You actually sleep in it overnight, and it is made of, has cranberry seed, raspberry oil, cranberry seed oil that are really going to help with hydration, but then also loads of vitamin C that are going to help with that antioxidant quality to neutralize any of the free radicals that are lingering in the skin, like in my case where I had those free radicals that were attacking the melanocytes cell membrane. So why seek help from a functional medicine provider rather than go the traditional medicine route for skin issues? Well, mainly with functional medicine, and especially at the Center for Holistic Healing, we take an in-depth history and map out your medical history on a timeline to look at the whole picture rather than just a diagnosis. Not just looking at that eczema, that psoriasis, the vitiligo, but really taking a deep look. Testing can be performed, such as genetic testing, in order to see where your issues genetically lie. So whether that's with inflammation or oxidative stress or methylation, we're going to be able to see that with genetic testing. And then we now know that we can influence our gene expression through things like diet, exercise, stress management. So we help guide our clients through an elimination diet. So that way we can begin to take foods out to see which foods are influencing the gut-skin axis. Your gut health can be tested to see exactly what good bacteria, bad bacteria, parasites, yeast are out of balance. So that way there is no more guessing. We know exactly what probiotic to add. We know what we need to kill off in order to regain that balance in the microbiome. We can also, with that comprehensive stool analysis, we can see, is there inflammation? Are there pH issues? And really address them specifically. There's another test that I love to use on my clients. It's called the organic acids test. This is a very comprehensive test that tells us real time what exactly is going on with the variety of different pathways within the body. So it's going to take a look at macronutrients, micronutrients. So talking about that fat and protein digestion that we talked about earlier, it will actually show, are these foods being broken down into a usable form, so that way they can enter the mitochondria to produce energy. It takes a look at B vitamins, at methylation issues, detoxification, the liver health. It's going to look at oxidative stress, neurotransmitters, and it'll confirm if you have SIBO or not. We also do a variety of other testing at the center. For instance, hormone testing, food sensitivity testing. We can test for leaky gut if necessary. And then we're going to develop a personalized plan that is perfect for you, rather than traditional medicine where you get a cream based on the diagnosis. So everybody, no matter what their diagnosis is, usually they're going to have a protocol per that diagnosis, not per your individualized condition. So if functional medicine is something that you're interested in learning more about, I do offer a free 15-minute phone consultation. All you need to do is go to my website, which is listed right there on the screen, chhpyt.com. You're going to click on the health assessment button right there on the home page, answer a few questions. It will not take you more than 5 minutes, and then we'll reach out to you within 24 to 48 hours to set up that phone consultation. Also, if you're interested in learning about Beautycounter, you can send me an email or a message on social media, and we can set up a 15-minute call as well in order to look for, or in order for me to help you with any recommendations for your particular skin issues, or if you're learning, or if you're interested in learning more about how you can be involved with our company. I'm happy to share that information as well. So here are some references. You can use your phone to screenshot that. These are great sites that provide a wealth of information regarding skin and gut health. So lastly, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to experience this class. I really do love sharing this topic with people. So change can be difficult, trust me. I know, I've been there, I've done it. But try making small changes over a period of time, and I promise the benefits will be healthier skin and a healthier gut. If you have any further questions, please post them in the Q&A, or you can shoot me an email. My email is listed right there. Thank you so much. Now check the questions. Looks like we do have one. Do you have a meal plan to stay in balance? Actually, I do, Lane. So really this varies per client. Usually is what I do. So I always recommend the 23-day elimination, because you have to take the foods out of the equation first. Because what happens is when we're eating inflammatory foods that could be causing food sensitivity and that heightened immune reaction, it takes 23 days for that immune response to settle down. So you remove inflammatory foods for 23 days, and then what you will do is you're going to reintroduce whatever food you missed the most back, one food at a time over a 3 to 4 day period. And that way you can develop your own system, what meal plan works for you and what doesn't. Now, in terms of a maintenance meal plan, I usually do that based on people's genetics, and so that way we can figure out exactly what is the right meal plan given their genetic makeup. I hope that helps. Any other questions? All right. Well, I am going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you all so much. Have a great day.